Hello, how are you? My name is Penda James, and I want to invite you to this episode, or not invite you, but thank you for being here to this episode of the Resilience Project, where we stand on four pillars: love, faith, courage, and restoration. What the purpose of this whole podcast is, if you're listening or watching us on YouTube, is for me to speak to people who have an impactful and a powerful bounce back story. My goal was to reach 100 people in my life that I love, have been touched by, and I wanted to hear how they made it through some of the most difficult times in their life. Because for me, I forgot at one point that I had a bounce back story. So I was just stuck. And I wanted my friends to help me get unstuck. And this is how it all came to be. Today, I am going to introduce you all to somebody that I care about very deeply. This is Kia Richardson. I met her when I was probably 13 years old, working at the Boys and Girls Club. And she and my sister are very, very good friends. So she and her sister and, their family are very close to us. And I'm just so grateful for her. And Kia is one of those ones that I will go to bat for. And many times I have wanted to go to bat for her when a situation has already happened, because she didn't always tell me what she was really experiencing. So she's going to tell us today her bounce back story. She's a mom. What are you, a yummy? A yummy? She's a yummy.
I'm a yummy, yes.
She's a yummy. So she has
AKA grandma.
the grandma. She has a wonderful new grandson, and she's an auntie. She's all around and a community advocate. She's an advocate for intimate partner violence awareness, and all of these things that I'm quite sure she's going to tell us about. So forgive all of my rambling. I want to just get into this conversation with Kia. Kia, is there anything that I did not say about you that you want our viewers and listeners to know?
You forgot to let them know that I'm the life of the party everywhere I go. No, really, I
Everything.
am.
Wait till you hear her laugh, and then you'll understand why. Absolutely. So we have a couple of declarations that we're probably going to talk about concurrently. And as you will see, if you cannot see, Kia is wearing some earrings that say Brown Girls Heal. She also has a t-shirt, which a t-shirt line, hashtag Brown Girls Heal, which is her ministry that she birthed several years ago. She has a podcast about it, and that is one of our declarations. And in conjunction with that, we're also going to talk about what it means to be a parent who is parenting while you are healing. So Kia, I want you to answer this first question for us. What does it mean to be a brown girl healing?
Healing or a brown girl healed. I'm sorry.
So if your hashtag is Brown Girls Heal, so what does that mean?
So to me, what brown girl healed means is continually healing. We as Black women happen to be some of the most unprotected creatures in the earth. They will protect the animals. We and the world will protect the Black men, but we're left out there to protect ourselves. We're left to heal. We're left to parent. We're left to complete degrees. We're left to work, all while being broken.
Ah.
So healing is more like a marathon. You take it day by day, minute by minute, and it's going to be some things you're going to literally have to take second by second, depending on the nature of the pain. Some things are easier to bounce back from. Things are harder. When you watch the news, you have more parents burying their children. We have more parents wondering where their missing child is. Not sure if you're watching, job loss is on the rise. Here in Ohio in 2020 alone, domestic violence rose by 20%.
Wow.
So we have so much going on that we need to heal from. But the number one reason that keeps us from healing is because the 80s babies We come from that general, what happens in this house stays in this house. So now we have to change that narrative, and we have to tell them, if what happened in this house is hurting you, it's okay to sit on the couch. I promise you it is. I'm a Christian. I love God. God is awesome. I'm a Christian. I love therapy. Therapy rocks. Therapy is amazing. And so we have to change that. We have to know that it is okay. But in me helping to change that, we have to understand that when we send these brown girls to these therapists, it's okay for you to honor that oath and not share their business in the street.
Mm.
That's about. So we have to get back to protecting us in all aspects. If I send people to sit on your couch, don't share their business. I'll never forget, it was about 3 months ago. I was walking through a Kroger, and I heard a young lady on speakerphone proudly proclaiming that she was a therapist, having a very public conversation with another therapist. Guess what the problem was? The young lady looked like you and I. So
Wow.
it is hard. Most people don't want to go through a therapist because the therapist hasn't been through what you, that therapist has studied the mind in ways that sitting around in some of these bitter circles will never heal you. Imagine if you get 15 mothers who have had to bury a child in a room and none of them are genuinely healed. All you have is bleeding on top of each other.
Yes.
Who really walks out healed? Because sometimes you leave with a different burden that's not yours. Let's paint this picture. We're in a room and we have 15 women who have buried a child. One of them was through sickness. The baby was just born ill and never made it. You have one whose child may have had a rare form of childhood cancer, but then you have that one whose child was murdered. While all of them have buried a child, now the most horrific story has been put on them. So when we have these meetings, it is important that we have a professional in the room skilled in that. Because what you don't want is to have these weekly meetings. Yeah, we may meet, but then we're leaving with weekly burdens because we don't know how to lay them down.
That's good here because I think about too, talking about grief as a motherless child. I think about there are times where when I'm in the room with my siblings and their pain is different from mine because mine has grief. I mean, mine has guilt on top of it. And guilt is a heavy, heavy burden because I didn't live in the same state as them. So when they were taking care of my mom, when she was in transition, I could not help them. And so I really, really, that is a great, great point that when we come into these healing circles, we have to have somebody to help us unpack it and leave it in the room instead of carrying and picking up everybody else's burdens too.
Absolutely. And that's something that we have to learn to master.
Wow. Okay, so you gave us a definition, which is it's a marathon, it's a continual process. Now, and you talked a little bit about your story in that definition, but can you talk about how being a brown girl healing has been a thread throughout Kia's life?
Oh, Jesus. Girl, I'm going to need more wine. Hold on. I'll sip to that. Ooh, this brown girl has literally had to heal her entire life. I don't know if it, um, as a very young girl, I was 8 or 9 years old. I was molested by a babysitter. I had to heal from that, but you don't know how to heal from that at 8 or 9 years old, so you act out. So I became what 2021 calls a hot girl because there was a sensation that was opened up inside of me that even though it was perverted, it felt good to me. So I wanted to know what that felt like. At 15, I became a mother. At 16, I entered a relationship. I was a little bit older than I was, but along with that came abuse. At 17, I was forced to abort my first child, which his mother took me to the appointment, and I hid that from my mother for maybe a year and a half.
Mm.
Um, then the abuse continued, And then in March of 2000, everyone knew what my relationship consisted of because we got into an argument. The dispute kind of made it actually made news around the world because we were arguing. He went to the house and he got a sawed-off shotgun. And about 15 minutes after he threatened me and my daughter, he shot a cop in the neck. She became paralyzed and she died 2 years later. Um, then I kind of lived my life, was getting ready to turn 21. I was clubbing, I was sexing, I was doing it all. Then I ended up, there was this one guy who kind of did things a little bit better than everybody else. So, we kind of entered into this, ended up having a son together. That was abusive. I left him, entered into another relationship, conceived another child. In that relationship, he then, while babysitting my son, was unable to control his anger, and his actions resulted in my son no longer being here. And I think that is where my healing started at. Because after I made sure that I went to healing, I went to therapy. And in therapy, the very first question, my therapist never called me a monster. She never judged me. She said, "What happened to you as a child that you gravitate to me?" And that's when I was able to tell her. And so I am forever thankful for Loretta Murphy because of her professionalism, because of her expertise. Nowhere in there did she think my mother did something. She wanted to know what happened to me as a child. And I was able to sit on that couch. And so it was maybe 6 months later, after Mrs. Murphy and I continued these sessions, that I was able to actually tell my mother, which was another form of healing for me. I sat my mother down on the couch and I told her, I said, "I'm getting ready to tell you something that is going to upset you." I said, I, I don't need you to react because the young man who molested me, his mother and my mother were childhood friends. They grew up doing her relationship with her. When I listened to them talk, when we would go over there before my mother would go to work because he babysat us, it was joy to hear them growing up. They shared things with us about their childhood. And I was like, God, that's cool. And y'all still friends? And so I never, ever, ever wanted to ruin her relationship with her childhood friend. But the minute I told my mother, her first question was, "Why did you not tell me?" But that gave me the opportunity to share with her. "I never wanted to ruin your relationship with Miss Joyce." I said, "You guys have been friends born." Time I was 25, 26. I said that you cherish friendships like that. But sometimes we don't know about those friendships now because we're so fickle. The minute somebody has to keep it real with you, you're ready to cut them off. The reason somebody no longer wants to be your yes man or your yes woman, you want to cut them off. But I cherish their relationship. The next thing my mother said, that explains a lot of your actions while you were growing up. Then my mother apologized to me. And I told my mom, "You didn't do anything wrong." I said, "You trusted him to babysit us while you went to work. She wasn't out clubbing when he was babysitting us. She wasn't laid up. She was making money to provide for us." So I didn't have a horrible lifestyle to be raised by a single mother. I think we were pretty spoiled. My mother very rarely told us no. And when my mother would come to the Boys and Girls Club, not only did she buy us something, but the kids that were at the concession stand, they knew that when they saw Miss Richardson coming, it was like snack time. And I think that's why it trickled over into us. Like my mother was the first philanthropist I ever saw in work. She didn't have to post about it. She didn't have to take pictures of it. She did it from her heart. Because we grew straight from the DeSoto Bass, and that was probably the only snack some of those kids were going to get. Mm-hmm. But so for me, Brown Girls Heal has been a thread for a long time. While the trauma happened, the healing started in my mid-20s, and I've continued that journey. Although I no longer see Mrs. Murphy after the last season of 2020, I knew then that I had to go back and sit on the couch. So for many who don't know, the young man who is responsible for my son was from January of 2020. That I didn't know what it would do to me until after it happened. So I was doing good. Two other young ladies and myself, the year before, we started self-caring selfish. And so the beginning of the year, we were doing virtual things. So I was good because I was busy, I was active. I didn't necessarily have time to let the pain settle in. It was about late June, early July. Showed up, I may know. And in that was a picture of him and his daughter, who happens to be the same exact age as my son. So September the 24th is my son's birthday. And it was then that I allowed the depression to just consume me. So I deactivated Facebook because I definitely believe in, I don't need social media while I heal. Because the thing that people need to understand is while you're bleeding on social media, your pain is a screenshot and some messy folks' fringe chat who have no desire to see you heal. Because if they did, it would be a prayer instead of a post in your friends chat. So that depression took over me because he was able to celebrate milestones with his daughter. They would have graduated in 2020. His daughter was able to graduate. I didn't get to see that for my son. She got to go to prom. I didn't get to see that for my son. She even turned 18. My son's last celebrated birthday was 3. He was 3 years old, and it was Spider-Man out that I got to celebrate. So I allowed this depression to consume me to the point where I grew suicidal. I was angry. I was bitter. I was everything that you see in everyday life of women. I went to work because we weren't going to be homeless. I did what I needed to do. Um, it didn't help that COVID was going on. That made it easy for me to isolate myself. I became the DoorDash queen. I didn't go to the grocery store. I could order whatever at the click of a button. And my youngest daughter, she became a pro at it. Can you just dash it? It's easy. But I was growing bitter. I isolated myself from everybody. There have been several times where I planned how I would end my life. But I knew that that wasn't God's will. My youngest daughter often remind me of how good of a mom I was to her. How when she listens to some of her other friends, she's thankful that I'm her mom. Because we talk about everything. And the light bulb clicked for me when I was transporting her and one of her friends. And Kendall was like, you do know that when we're having to tell everybody, I'm gonna see what my mama would say about this. And that's when I knew I could not let her down. She already didn't have a father. She wouldn't have a mother. To know that I was her source of knowledge, her provider. I was so many things for her. But oftentimes, when we're not reminded of those things daily, it's easy for us to want to let go. It's easy to say, you know what? I don't serve purpose for any of these people in my life. So that's when I knew then that I needed therapy. So my first source was the EPA program, which many of our employers had. It was free, it was virtual. We would sit on the thing and I was just like, it was almost like blah, 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 wah, wah, wah. It wasn't until a friend of mine, I'm sorry, that was a bee.
Yeah, I saw it.
Bees come to sweet things. So it wasn't until a friend of mine found me a therapist. So she's a Black young lady. And initially, that version that I heard in Kroger, I was like, yeah, I don't know about this. Am I going to become a FaceTime or a speaker time chat? Yeah, I'm good. So I reached out to her. I sent her a message. We had our first, they sent me all the links and I knew that I would be paying $85 per session. So the first thing I thought is, where am I going to cut costs at? I love my bougie coffee, but guess what? I had to let go of my coffee to heal my heart and my mind because I was bleeding on people. I, Ironically, I started the Brown Girls Heal podcast at the beginning of 2020, but then this Brown Girls wouldn't bleed on the audience. It's easy for us to make that terrible decision because we have a good message, but between your subliminal messages in your posts and your recordings, you can initially bleed on the people who have been sent to hear the message. So now your message is blurred because you're mixing bitterness with what's supposed to be a blessing. You can't have both of those.
You
So
know, it's interesting that you say about bleeding on the people. I think that in this season, like you were talking about the pandemic, my in that season was when I realized that I was like literally dying to, like, I was no longer myself. So we die every day. Of course, we know that's the scripture and everything, but the way that I was feeling, I literally felt like I was shrinking inside of myself. And I didn't like that. And I didn't I didn't have I don't want to say I didn't have the resources for therapy, but I hadn't seen my therapist in a year, and so for me, it was having these conversations. Now, like you see me taking notes while you're talking, I have things so that when I'm ready to go back and talk to my therapist, I have all these things that I want to that I want to talk about. And I think as I was, because we're sister friends, and I knew when you were going through that season of like not talking to nobody. And it was so hard for me to love you and not be able to penetrate that wall that was around you. So now I'm talking to you today and I'm like, I can see the difference, like I could feel the difference. Kia is back. She back, And so brown girl, I'm like, even to see you wearing your shirt and your earrings and being intentional and drinking your wine, like your hair is purple, your nails are purple, like these are things that are important to you and have always been important to you. And because I see you doing it, I feel free again. Like I
we're gonna fly.
woo,
Come on, Birdie, let's fly.
I'm like,
We're
I
gonna
could
fly to freedom.
feel
We're gonna fly to healing. We're gonna fly to restoration, deliverance. We're gonna fly to it all. It's there.
it's
But
there.
we have to go after it. And what we have to stop doing is using social media to get us there.
That's good.
We have to. We spend more time trying to create a facade for people who dealing with some of the same stuff we're dealing with.
Yeah.
Who has a perfect life? Point me to one. I don't care what your position is. We spend so much time trying to make people feel like we have this perfect life. My life is far from perfect. But what I do know is when I get in those times, I didn't go to church. I did it virtually. And good for me because I serve on the hospitality team at church. And the one thing I never wanted to do was greet somebody at the door with all of this heaviness.
Yeah.
First of all, inside of the cathedral, if we were walking in our gifts as we're supposed to, heaviness is discern. When you can discern heaviness, that is weighty. There
Oh,
have been many times where I've been in the sanctuary and I'm like, Jesus, if we don't get all of this off of us,
yeah.
but we have to stop waiting until Sunday. If you read in the Bible, they created altars whenever, however, and out of whatever. They didn't wait until they were inside of some place. For me, I can create the best altar in a bubble bath. Guess what? When I'm sitting there crying and those tears are rolling, that's between me and God. I journal to create an altar. When I journal, what I put on that journal is between me, God, the pen, and the paper.
Yeah.
Guess what? I don't have to worry about none of them running to tell that. The pen not gonna talk, the paper not gonna talk. And if God gives it to somebody, it's gonna be for protection, not slander, not gossip.
Yeah. The definition of the word altar means where the place where we met God.
And guess where you can meet him at? Anywhere. No,
Anywhere.
you don't have to wait till you're inside of a cathedral to have an audience. And the reality is the audience does harm. How many times have you been in a service and that same person keeps going up there? It's always that one person. That ought to be gone by now, but you don't know the weight of it.
Yeah.
And if it ought to be gone, why have you not taken the time to meet with him or her in secret to help them get rid of it?
So this is a good question, because that point right there really resonates with me. Because I love you and you are my sister friend, I did not know how to reach you, right? And get penetrate through
And I
that.
wasn't reachable.
You were, but it wasn't up to us.
So to that point, you have some people who are hungry for it, but because I have been hurt when I tried to let people in, that wall is there.
Yeah.
And so because I had, okay, after Karan passed away, initially I was mad that my mother reached out to the pastor of the church that I used to go to, because I knew of some of the things that he had spread about people in the church. I was, when he showed up, I said, why did you do this? Like, I was angry because I did not want to become another one of those. I did become another one of those, and that was crushing to me. Like, you just performed my son's eulogy and this is what you do? So that season of healing was hard, and it was so hard that I ended up on the 7th floor at Good Samaritan Hospital for a whole taken away from me by children's services, and they had to go live with other adults. I had to take a parenting class, I had to take a domestic violence class, and so then a psychiatrist came in and I had to take a test. And the test was like 250 questions. So it was just all about a whole bunch of different stuff. So the psychiatrist came to me and he said, this is the purpose of the test. He said, before the trauma, you were this loving, bubbly person. He said, after the trauma, you have now become homicidal. He said, I need you to write down the names of the people. I wrote their names down with no problem, because guess what? You are not honest, you cannot heal. Honesty is a prerequisite for genuine healing. You can have that powder puff healing, but if you want that genuine healing where you're not going back there, you have to be honest. Not you have to be honest with all of those sent to help you. You have to be honest with God too, because those who sent to help you will never shame you. So he told me what he was going to do, and at first I was like, I'm not going there, but it was beneficial to me, because while I was there, I met a woman who became addicted to heroin or whatever you snort. She had burned the lining of her nose because she had snorted so much. I met a young lady who tried to take her life by pills. I met a young lady who planned to jump in front of a train. But so the first 2 days, I just stayed in the room. I'm like, this is so embarrassing. Why am I here? So then one of the ladies at dinner, I didn't participate in group. You're gonna have to stay here longer. Let me tell you, I made a tissue box. I made another box. I was out there painting. When we had round table, I was out there participating, but it did me good to listen to their stories. Because the one young lady who burned the lining of her nose, she, in a car wreck, her mother, her father, her child, gone in one day. The other young lady who wanted to kill herself by pills was carrying up her for years.
Repeat that one more time.
The young lady who wanted to take her life by pills was carrying a burden that her dad molested her for years. So round table was good. I was dealing with the fact that I had to bury a child who I wasn't ready to bury. Now, even though everything was different, some of them more horrific, it didn't mean that mine wasn't as serious.
Yeah.
And I say that to say, feel like, because yours is not here, your this doesn't matter. But the awesome thing about God is God gives this to those who can, and I'm not going to say that. We have to quit that narrative, because sin is sin. So God didn't necessarily give this person that. The world gave this person that, because God doesn't give us sin. While God can do all things, a sinner is going to always be a sinner. So the world gives some people this, the world gives some people that, but wherever it is, God's who he is. But we have to take God out of this box. God is not a Sunday only God. It's 365 days in a year. And if it's leap year, that's a great thing. That's a whole extra day to let God be God.
Yes. Okay, Kia, you have just really opened up my mind to a whole nother layer of like what it means, this declaration, Brown Girls Heal. It was a declaration that you had for a while. It got you through this last season. And that's the first thing you did when you came back on social media. It's like Brown Girls Heal. And it's a continuous process. It's a marathon. Something is going to happen again, and you're going to have to go through a whole nother healing process, you know. And some things we will be healing from for the rest of our lives. So I'm just grateful that you are back so that you can go get some other women out of caves. I'm laughing because I feel like I was telling you earlier how your wine glass is like shining. So every time when you take a sip, it's like, I don't want to, you know, people be like, oh, it's alcohol, but it's like I see that light shining. It's like, that's the presence of God. Like, I'm here, boo.
Hey, you know I'm always here, boo. Hey,
I'm here, boo. I'm great. I'm just grateful for that. Is there something that I did not ask you that you want to talk about? Anything else that you want people to know about Brown Girls Heal, or what it's like to be a parent who is parenting while healing?
the one thing that forgive yourself. Always forgive yourself. 2, some of the things were never your fault. 3, the one thing I want everybody to find a therapist that you can trust. Because the number of people who flood my inbox talking about abortion because I'm open about mine. I think the one thing that people don't know how to take me is because I'm an open book. But this is the thing, an open book is how you bring healing to others. I can't heal you or help you heal if I'm lying to you. Girl, I ain't never been there. I ain't never done that. Oh, you did that? No. Girl, come on. Let's come and sit down and talk about that, because let me tell you. Another thing is, everything that I've survived, someone else has died in that situation.
Yep.
Sometimes when little girls are molested, that person kills them
Yes.
because they never wanted. Many women have died when a gun was pulled on them. Most definitely a loaded gun. Many women have died from concussion, because all concussions are not where you could get up and walk. Some concussions are life-ending. Many women have died having abortions performed.
Yeah.
Many women have been suicidal and followed through. Anything that you have experienced in life, you can use it for His glory. Capital H, not his who in your inbox. I'm talking about, you can use it for God's glory. It's something about that messy middle. You know, where that mud is a little thicker because the way the water settles at the top.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that deep down inside where you may have to get your little nails dirty, go take them acrylics off for a while, do your own pedicures for a while, because that gives you time to reflect. Deactivate social media into your heart and mind already. I'm tired of y'all being the subject of group text messages. I'm tired of it. Deactivate it.
Yeah.
You are being perfect, well, trying to be perfect for a whole bunch of people who broken AF. We know what AF stand for.
Yes, I do. I want to say too, Kia, that it is also important to have people around you who hear and obey the voice of God. And I know you didn't talk about this, but your friends from church planned a birthday party for Quran, and it was right in the season. Talk about that.
Yeah, now, let me tell you how awesome that was. So Keisha Pettis, who is my boo, that's my girlfriend. So she got together with some other ladies from church, and this was in 2020. And so they planned this birthday party. There was a cake. There was balloons that said 17. It was everything I needed. Also, so which is funny. So Krista, who goes to my church, is the biggest introvert. But remember, I did the open letter for the Tracy's project, the
Yes.
open letter to. Okay, so Krista and her mother both purchased the book.
Okay.
So when I isolated myself, Krista reached out to me. She said, "The Lord said that was harder than you expected it to be." She didn't say they said, she said, he said, she said, the Lord said. And at first, I was not going to let Krista in because Krista and I, we knew each other, we vibed. She always said, if something you know what it is. So she reached out to me. She said, I'm going to come over. And at this time, I wasn't letting any, like, I didn't even let Keisha Pettis in. Keisha called. She said, I'm going to come over. I said, no, you're not. She said, I'm going to tell Kendall to let me in. I said, and I'm going to tell Kendall not to let you in. So Krista reached out to me. She said, I'm coming to see you after church. I ignored the text message. She called. I ignored the phone call. She left the voicemail. She said, okay, I'm on my way. And so because I knew that Krista was an introvert, I had to remember how much that took out of her to reach out to me. And so I said,
Oh.
you can't block her. I let Krista in. She had the most beautiful bouquet of sunflowers. And she also had this candle holder that said, memories of those who are no longer here. I said that to say, yes, you need those people who are genuine. And I allowed Krista in. Krista would send me a simple text message that said 3 words: I love you. We didn't see each other again until I finally made the decision to come to church. I sent her a text message and I said, save me a seat. She said, bruh, don't get me hyped for nothing. I said, save me a seat. When I got there, Krista's mother, it was so, she was gonna get to me to give me that hug by any means necessary. So Krista said, this was cover them seats to give you that hug. But because I knew that they had travailed for me in that season,
Yes.
I knew that.
Yes.
I didn't have any doubt about that. Krista, on Tuesday, she would text me, it's Taco Tuesday. On Wednesday, she would text me, it's Hump Day. On Friday, she was like, hey, it's the weekend. It was consistent. The thing is, she heard from God. And she obeyed. And I needed that and I appreciated that. So to your point, we have to be open to receive it from who God sends. God may not always send that homegirl or that person you've known all your life. I met Krista at church. We had each other's numbers because she was at the birthday party last year and we talked here and there. But we didn't have that relationship. But because I knew it was from God, I had to trust someone. And I love her for that. When you have people who genuinely seek God when they don't need all the details, that's what draws me. I get kind of concerned when people have to say, the Lord told me to pray for you, but tell me what's going on. The
Uh,
Lord gonna tell you how to pray for me. The
yeah.
Lord not gonna tell you, go get some mess. God is not here for the backbiting. God is here so we can really heal. But
Yeah.
we can't heal with an ulterior motive. It's not gonna happen. Because eventually your foulness is gonna bleed on that person. And then it's gonna do more damage than good because they're gonna become resentful. And then because we don't know how to separate God from the people in the building, it's always, well, God let them hurt me. No, this person is flesh. You were not discerning enough. You didn't even ask God their purpose. Because if you would have went to God versus Facebook, God would have told you, back that thing up. It's
Yeah.
about to be a train wreck.
Yeah.
Now, when God tells you to stay close, to pour out, to be you, that's when you know you're getting ready to see his glory. And the beauty of it, it is a beauty in letting God send you people. But guess what? He didn't send me a whole bunch. He didn't even send me somebody who I knew all my life. You always think your A1s is going to be the one. And not that I didn't appreciate ones, but your A1 didn't give you what you needed. God knew who would be that pillar for you, for me. And
Yeah.
I thank him for Krista.
Me too. Thank you, Krista. Thank you for being obedient, and your mom for being obedient. Thank
When I
you.
tell you, watching her mama come and give me that hug, let me tell you, my heart was like, because see, this is the thing. Well, you and I both know what it's like not to have a mother around.
Yeah.
But when you get that hug of love, that nurturing hug, mother gift, oh God, it just, man, listen, it does
It's
something to your whole body.
you know, it reminds me this summer, I think pastor asked me to be on the prayer call for church, and I invited my friend and her mother, and when her mother prayed, I followed her. I could not even talk. I was crying so hard. Like, it's just something about the spirit of a mother that just really gets us through. So I'm just so grateful for Crystal and her mom. I'm grateful for your boo, Keisha Pettis, and all the people who stood with you, because Kia has much work to do, and many people that will be touched and healed and delivered because of your story. I want you to give us the final word. And so before I wrap it up, I just want to say Kia does have some publications, and I don't know if you have them up anywhere where people can find them, but she's published in a couple anthologies, and she has a podcast, which I hope she will get back up and running very soon. So tell us how we can connect with you. I'm going to toast my tea with you. I love you.
I love you.
We toasting to resilience and to healing. All right, final words, sis. Speak to the people and give them a word of encouragement, and we gonna say thank you and we love you.
You know, I think the only thing we need to say at the end of this is but God,
But God,
because it could always be worse.
It could always be worse. We're gonna take a few seconds of silence in honor of Quran and our moms. And the last word that we want you to hear is
But hold on.
Oh, hold on.
And we also had, hold on. Now, excuse me, ma'am, it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month and Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Two things that are near and dear to our hearts.
Yes.
We definitely have to give them their moment of silence, because it's due.
It's due. So we
have a whole lot of silence.
We're gonna end with a few moments of silence in honor of Quran, which is Kia's son, who is watching over her, and our moms, any survivors and victims of intimate partner violence, advocates, and anyone who is living with, healing from, or has transitioned from breast cancer. We just say thank you, God, but God.